Hi, today I'm going to be talking about the latest controller release from 8BitDo. The Pro 2 is the follow-up to the highly rated SN30 Pro Plus. Thank goodness I started simplifying the names. And I pre-ordered it as soon as I heard it's released. I had a few pushbacks on delivery, but it's finally here. I've seen a few videos already from a couple of YouTubers who I think got early releases from the company. So what does someone who actually purchased it truly think about the controller? Wait a minute, if I give this a great review, someday maybe I'll be sent stuff in the post. Wait, how many views my last video get? Well, I may as well keep my integrity. I bought the grey edition, but there's also a black and a Game Boy style one. It was a really close call for me between the Game Boy one and this, and in the end I think I went for this one just because it was the newest design. The front button layout has a clear evolution from its predecessors, starting with the SN30, based on the Super Nintendo controller, hence the SN in the name, onto the SN30 Pro, which gained the analog sticks. Then the SN30 Pro Plus, which grew some legs, making it more a modern looking controller. Finally to the Pro 2, whose main frontal difference is a profile button, which allows you to quickly switch between the 4 pre-configured settings. It's definitely a love child of the SNES and PlayStation controller, the latter giving some colour inspiration, albeit rotated by 90 degrees. The feel of the controller layout isn't far from the Stadia controller, although the Pro 2 going for the Nintendo style button layout compared to the Stadia going for the Xbox. The controller itself feels reasonably light but solid, and the plastic has a nice quality feel about it and a slight texture on the back of the grips. Flipping it over to the back, you can see more differences from the previous models, the most obvious being the 2 back buttons, which are usually found on more Pro controllers, or via adapters like the DualShock 4 ones. The other difference on the back is a switch allowing you to go between different modes. The controller has a fairly impressive level of connectivity. The setting S is for Nintendo Switch mode, A is for Apple when connecting to macOS, and D for D input when connecting to things like Android devices, and X input for connecting to Windows. The last model allowed for different connection modes, but you had to remember a certain button combination when turning it on to set them, and there was no way of telling which mode you were in. This was a big draw for me getting this controller, as I wanted something I could use on a number of different systems, as I'm often jumping between devices, and I like the idea of using one controller to do it. So also in the box were some instructions explaining the connection modes, and a USB-C to A cable for charging. In regards to charging, it connects where you'd hope, right on the top, which is just next to the sync button. It comes with a 1000 mAh lithium-ion battery, which claims to give 20 hours of gameplay and it takes 4 hours to charge. But by far the best feature of anything I've bought in a long while, the batteries are removable, and better yet, they can be replaced by a pair of AA's. So if, or when, the battery actually begins to die, you can easily replace it. And if you can't source a replacement rechargeable one, you can just pop in a pair of standard AA batteries. As someone who collects handheld electronics, this is huge to me. And I can't tell you how many devices I've got where the battery is knackered and you can't use it anymore. So, again, in comparing it to its inspiration, size-wise it's pretty close to the Super Nintendo controller. And it's a bit chunkier when comparing it to the original PlayStation controller. But I know what you're all thinking, what's it like compared to, and used as, an NES controller? To use it as an NES controller, you need another 8BitDo device, the NES Retro Receiver. 8BitDo have released a number of connectors for different consoles, the Mega Drive, the SNES, and most of the newer mini versions. It's a great way to wirelessly hook one up. And when used in conjunction with the Pro 2 and its back buttons, it could be an interesting alternative to a 6-button Mega Drive controller. The receivers work with a huge number of controllers, like most of the modern PlayStation or Xbox ones. You can even connect a Wiimote. So you don't need an 8BitDo controller to enjoy them. To use this retro receiver, you just plug it in the front of whatever you're using that has an NES style controller port. Here I'm using the Retron HD from Hyperkin, which I know gets a lot of stick for its sound and picture quality. In fact, Bob from Retro RGB has a great review, essentially telling you not to buy it. But I love mine, and for the price it can't be beat. I got mine for less than £20, and it's an unbelievably convenient way for playing NES and Famicom cartridges on HDMI TV. Although for the Famicom, you will need an adapter. You can switch between NTSC and PAL, so it's great for testing carts without wearing out the original hardware. And especially because on my original hardware, I need to clean the cartridge port again. And it may not be the best output in the world, but it does cost 10 times less than the alternative. Okay, this is where I ran into some issues. No matter what I did, I couldn't get the controller to connect. So I went off, did some more research, and contacted their support for help. So now seems like a great opportunity to cover the next part of the controller and 8BitDo that I've been impressed with, and that's the software. 8BitDo also provide a modestly named Ultimate software, which was previously only Mac and Windows, but now has an iOS and Android version. For the desktop versions, you need to connect via USB and choose which mode you want to configure, although you can't configure the Windows X input from a Mac. With the mobile version, there's no need to plug it in, and you can configure it over Bluetooth, so it's a lot more convenient, and you can even configure it whilst it's connected to a console. The software allows for complete customization and remapping of buttons, so if you have a thing for a spongy or a hair trigger, you can set it just the way you like. Also, if you use a certain button layout for a particular game or console, you can swap them all around. You can also configure macros for things like button combos if you want to cheat at a fighting game, and it's here you can assign things to the back buttons. You can then save these settings up to 4 profiles per connection type and easily switch between them for different games and systems, without needing to connect it back up to the software. The app also allows you to update the controller's firmware. There's been 2 releases since I've had the controller with a number of bug fixes in. 8BitDo also have another desktop app, the Firmware Updater, which, as the name suggests, allows you to update the firmware of other devices. For the NES Retro receiver, you need to hold the sync button as you plug it in, and then you can navigate to the correct firmware. So through testing and discussing it with their support, I found using version 1.36 of the Retro receiver firmware, which isn't the latest, works with the latest version 1.02 of the controller firmware, but only when in switch mode and not D-input, which I would have expected. Now, to connect them up, you first plug in the Retro receiver, then turn on the controller and start it syncing. Then press and hold the sync button on the Retro receiver for about 3 seconds. You see a lot of flashing lights until they eventually lock, and then you get a reassuring vibration. From now on, you should just have to turn them both on and then connect. And how does it play? As I'm using my wife to model, I thought I'd ask her opinion. And other than her main criticism of me having to shove a camera in between her and the controller, she found it comfortable and responsive, which is how I found it. I didn't notice any lag for the buttons, and it felt solid, responsive, and it's well known that 8BitDo controllers have great D-pads, and it doesn't disappoint. I've also been using the controller a lot since I got it playing emulators on the Nvidia Shield, and it's great. It's easy to connect and reliable. The only downside I've seen is on one of the analog sticks it's showing a sign of wear already, no doubt from some overexcited Pikmin playing. It's just cosmetic and hopefully none of the plastic will actually work into the mechanism. I don't think it's a particular flaw of this controller, I think it's just the nature of thumbsticks and plastic on plastic. I would definitely recommend this controller, especially if you're a fan of 2D games and a heavy D-pad user, as not only is it a great feeling D-pad, it's in a much more comfortable position than, say, a Switch Pro controller. And for something you can connect to your Raspberry Pi, your computer or your Switch, it really is a great choice. Well, thanks for making it this far, and as always a like and subscribe is always appreciated, and thanks for watching.